Welcome to today's show. Change, which is permanent, has been here for ages. Centuries have changed, civilizations have changed. Everything that we know has changed. And yet, we find challenges to accept change. There are so many aspects that we want to know, to understand, to assimilate, to bring about for our own benefits. But why is it becoming difficult for us to accept change as it is? Let us discuss these aspects of change in today's show. We have Sister Usha. Let us welcome her. Sister Usha, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Change, as we know, is not bad. We all seek change. But at times, we wonder, why is it so becoming difficult for us to accept it the way it is? I often think that it is because of my own preconceived notion of how I want it to be. Is it bad to have a notion of things to be?
Well, I feel it's not bad to have a notion, but at least then we have to keep ourselves open. Well, this is my notion, but if something comes in a different way, then I have to be open to accept that as well. And maybe I can change my perception and through that view it in a different way. Maybe it will become easy for me to accept that with my notion or connect it with my notion as well. It depends on how we are perceiving it. If my perception is negative, and I feel, no, this should not have happened, then I feel my notion is this, so this I cannot accept. But if my perception is different, I perceive it in a different way, and connect it with my notion, maybe I feel, yes, this is like a bridge or a link where I can develop a different view and it will become easy. And I won't feel it is bad. I feel everything is good.
There is something which I feel is the call of the time for today, in the present age that we live in. The change in relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships, as we know, person to person. I have a different rapport, relationship with my mother. With my father, it's different. My friends, it is different. My own brothers and sisters and siblings, it is different. My colleagues, it's different. When these relationships are in different nodes and different modes of their own existence, I might be very comfortable with you, but I might not be very comfortable with your own sister.
Yeah.
That changes from person to person.
Everyone is a different being. Everyone has their own uniqueness. And maybe because the frequency, I get tuned in with somebody, I feel, yes, I can accept this person, but I can't accept his brother or sister.
It is quite common. It's quite common. But when I do not accept someone, I think that he is not the same. She is not the same. She is different. And I do not like this personality for some reason, whatsoever reason. But sometimes you are put up with them. You have to be with them. Maybe they are your roommates, or maybe they are your colleagues, maybe he or she is your boss, and maybe he is your junior. You have to work with them, and there is no other escape to it. You cannot avoid, you cannot escape, you cannot ignore. And you start expecting some changes in them because sometimes you are in a superior position, you are the boss, and you want that they must change. Sometimes they are your colleagues, you expect them to change, you do not guide them, but you are hoping that one day they would change. The same happens to families today. I want my wife to change. Why can't she just wake up every day in the morning? I am a fitness freak, she isn't, but I want her to do that. I want my children to change. I want them to do their homework.
Because we put everyone in our shoes and we want them to wear those shoes, which is just impossible. Everybody can't be put in the same shoes. Everybody has their own ways
But I desire it. It is for their own good, right?
No matter we desire and we feel it is good for them, but sometimes we should allow them, and give them the space. Give them that touch, inspire them, and they can come. But when all this is done with love, with the feelings of love, others accept it easily. But if I force change onto them, they should go my way, then it will be very difficult, because everyone then gets stubborn in their own. Why should I change according to you or what you desire? I have my own desires, And this is where the arguments starts. And we cannot take one another. It is difficult for them to accept us, and it is difficult for me to accept them.
This is this aspect of change that I often wonder, that this is the change that I desire. Maybe it is a small thing, it might not be very big. I just want them to change the timetable. Maybe I want to change their routine. Maybe I want to change their lifestyle a little bit so that it could be easier for me. Sometimes it is just for their benefit.
Definitely. But for that, we'll have to create that awareness in them. Look, what are the benefits in this? And in this way, how you will get benefited. Even if a small child, we ask him to change, the child would immediately ask, what for?
Yes.
He wants an understanding that if I make these changes, what am I going to get out of it? What for? How will I get benefited? So if I'm able to make that clear to them, then he would say, okay, let me try. But if I don't give him any explanation, and are you asking me, questioning me? I want it to happen, And this is where, if I'm not able to make a vision clear in front of that child, it's going to be very difficult for him to accept. He may do something to please me, but
he would not want it.
No.
When you gave this example that when I do not create that vision, when I do not share that vision in front of people, often the retaliation that comes out is, why do you want it?
Yeah.
And people say it in all bad manners.
Yeah.
Sometimes people use abusive language
because
they just do not know why you are wanting to get this done.
Yeah.
It as if appears that you are coercing on somebody's freedom, you are trying to force yourself upon your views on them. So
it reminds me of a beautiful example when you said that story. Maybe you might have heard that story before, that once there was a battleship, and there was a great storm in the sea. So it was carried by that storm in a different direction. And when the storm calmed down, the captain of the ship asked one of his officers, can you put the ship back into the direction we have to go? So the officer was very enthusiastic, ran up on the deck. He saw the ship, put the ship on the direction towards the destination, and then he took up the binoculars and started looking around, and he saw a flashing light far away. So he thought there is some other ship who is flashing at us, that they are already on this course. So he comes down, informs his captain, I put the ship on the route that we have to go, but I see a flashing light. Maybe it's trying to tell us that they're already on this course. So the captain says, give them information that please change 20 degrees. So the officer goes up, again sends the message, we have set our ship on this course, so please change 20 degrees. A flashing message comes back. We advise you to change 20 degrees. So the officer comes down, informs the captain. Captain says, what? Telling a battleship
To change
to
20
change?
degrees, yeah.
Tell him that the captain of this ship is asking you to change. So from the other side, a flashing message comes, I'm a second-class officer, but still advisable for you to change 20 degrees. So when the captain gets the information, he becomes so wild and says, no way. Says, well, this is a battleship. It always gets the first chance. So change immediately. These are my orders. So a flashing message comes back again. But I'm a lighthouse.
We cannot change.
So when the captain of the ship understood it's a lighthouse, it cannot change, he changed.
Yes.
Sometimes this is what happens in our life. We do not understand other one's situation.
Yes.
And we go on forcing change. And by the time we come to know, then we sometimes have to regret. I shouldn't have been so forcing on him. I should have understood his position as well. I should have understood what he is going through. We regret.
It so happens with children, especially young children. Parents have a dream for the child. Every parent has a dream for the child. But the child also has his or her own dreams.
Ambitions, yeah.
Yeah, they also want to do something. But in the field of education, let's say, every father and mother today wants their child to excel in all fields.
Yeah.
No, if not in all fields, at least in the field of academics, education. But the child might have a different dream, maybe arts, maybe music, maybe dance, or sport.
Yeah.
But we do not see it. But we want them to study hard. Maybe he's very good in music, but I want him to study hard. I want him to do maths, whereas he's good at musical notes.
And that's where, if we allow him to grow the way he wants to, maybe he may be developing those emotions or those feelings, and he can enhance his EQ level, I would say, instead of just the IQ level. Academic means, or maths, or this, engineering, means just the IQ level. And that's where he loses the emotional feelings. But if through the music, if he emotionally gets connected, that's where he enhances his EQ level, and he will be in a better position to understand people, and maybe he'll be very good in handling them, understanding them, getting things done through them. That's why in today's corporate world, it is said, people with high IQ are fired, and people with high EQ are hired.
Such as the state.
Yeah.
And we must somewhere change the way that we think and the way we look at things also. And this is, of course, a desirable change that we are doing.
Yeah.
But there are other aspects of change, which is the undesirable change. Nobody desires things to happen, I guess. Nobody wants war.
Yeah.
Nobody wants terrorism. Nobody wants bomb blasts to happen. Nobody wants natural disasters to happen. Terrorists blowing up themselves, the attacks on schools, mass killings happenings, minefield explosions and whatnot.
Yeah.
The harm to the nature. A lot of other things of this kind would happen. And since we live in a modern age, everything comes up on computer screen or smartphones where we could watch videos and have access to information. I see these things. These are the changes which are happening in the world. I do not desire them, but I cannot do anything for them as well.
I feel that the basic quality in each and every human being is of goodness. And so, when we are functioning with those goodness, those qualities, we appreciate. But when we see some people with negative attitude or terrorists, when they are not functioning with that intrinsic value, we find why. Or we have this question in our mind every time. Why these people cannot behave in a beautiful way, you know? And when we see those scenes, although we change our channel immediately, but those scenes somewhere impacts our screen of the mind.
It stays there.
It stays there.
Yeah.
And so when we go out maybe to work, immediately we meet people, or even when we communicate with one another, we immediately ask them, did you see this? Did you see what happened? Why can't these people be good with one another? So this is what we have questions, and we feel they should also change. Everybody should change. Everybody should function on the basis of that intrinsic value which they have in them, with that goodness. And then the world will be a beautiful place to live in.
So this is something you would call change for good.
Yeah.
And I remember, not much time, but it has been more than 6 months now, where a campaign was started called Change for Good. And people on their social media accounts posted on things that they want to change for good. And they thought that, and these changes were changes that were not huge. They were not political changes, they were not changes on macro level, but they were small changes, like changes in the municipality, changes in schools, changes that they wanted to do their own lives.
Yeah.
And these are the changes that they expected. And I guess if they could bring about this change, then naturally, on a broader picture, things would change automatically.
Definitely. And you know, when once we began this by finding out from children, and so in a school, we asked the children, can you draw a picture of how you want the world to be like?
Yes.
And they came out with beautiful pictures.
Yes.
What they would want the world to be like and what they have aspired for. But when we see the world again and what their behavior is, we see that they are moving on the basis of the gadgets. They are moving in a different direction. And they have a beautiful picture. But there is no connection.
I remember, I think this was in the early 90s, where it was the UN year for Global Cooperation for a Better World.
Yes.
And it took a huge moment. Like, it turned out to be a moment in itself where children and other people were trying to picturize a better world.
Better world. But then their own actions or their own attitudes or their own vision was very limited for themselves.
Yes.
They were not able to see themselves in that picture.
Yes.
It was just a picture that they had for somebody else, not for me.
What would I do in that picture?
No,
I was not
they were
there.
not able to visualize themselves in that picture.
Not themselves as the part of the world. Yeah.
And that is why maybe that the world is moving, because everyone, they don't see themselves in that picture. That's why the world is also moving in a different direction. And that change is not appreciated then.
Because I see myself as a separate entity than the world, and I see that the world is a different thing and I am a different thing, and I would not consider myself to be a part of the world, not an inclusive to the world thing. About this undesirable changes, you said that if I consider myself to be the part of that world, I guess then those undesirable changes would also change to desirable ones.
Definitely. It will be. And that is where I think people would be able to create a different picture for themselves also. And they will able to take themselves in that. It happens so that we had a project on values. And we went to a school. And during that time, there was a serial, Ramayana, going on. And so we thought that would be the best example of values, of how the character of Ram would be. So we asked the children that we hope you are seeing this serial on the television, Ramayana. So which character you like the most? We expected them to say the character of Ram. But to our surprise, they said Ravan. So now, when they liked Ravan, so we asked them why. Oh, he's bold and courageous and this and that. All the values they started mentioning about. Now, what values should we teach them? So they had a different picture, that they appreciated the character of Ravan. And we felt as if they wanted to be in that character. And they are not aware of where it is going to take them to.
Because they don't know the whole story, yeah.
A negative character. And picturizing that character as if that they are admiring that character. So where will it lead them to? So now what to teach them? So then we asked them, how do you like your parents to be? So then they said, yeah, the parents should be like Ram, They wanted to be Ravan.
Yes.
But they wanted their parents to be like Ram.
Yes.
Nice, kind. And then they started mentioning the values of Ram. And they wanted to see those values in their parents.
Yes.
But they do not want to see those values in themselves. Because they are not realizing at this moment that as they grow up, they are also going to become parents of somebody else. And definitely their children would also want to see those values in them.
True.
So everybody wants others to be positive. No matter how negative I am. So this is where the desired change, which you are talking, is not going to happen.
Yeah. Recently I had been to Indonesia, and Indonesia has its own version of the Ramayana, and they have a very world famous Ramayana ballet which is recognized by the UNESCO as a cultural heritage. When there's so many people in the audience, it's a houseful performance. Every evening it happens in front of a temple courtyard. And the most loved character there is the character of Hanuman. When the monkey would come up, everybody would cheer up for him. And there was a group of school children who had come, and they were asked, why do they like the monkey very much? And the very instantaneous answer was they said that we love him so much because we are also like him most of the times. And I was thinking that what children were trying to say. One of the child mentioned it very beautifully, and he said that as much as he can do whatever he wants, he can jump around, play, but he is the one who is helping everyone do things. And that nature to help, to offer, to be that change maker, to be part of that change, even though he himself cannot do it, but he is still part of that, was something which was a very beautiful takeaway message. Like when you said undesirable change, it is something that we cannot change on our own, but we can be party to that. We can play a small part in it.
Small part in it. Just as for the sparrow, who was like taking each and every fish and putting it in the ocean. When the wave brought out the small fishes and they were trying to survive, so the sparrow took one fish each one. And so somebody asked the sparrow, so many thousands of fish have come onto the shore. How are you going to
save all of them?
So it doesn't matter, but it is going to make a difference in this fish life.
At least one
fish life. And in that way, maybe so many, whatever I can do, that is my part. So that is what we are trying to bring in. That sometimes people have this notion
that I cannot do everything.
But at least whatever you can do will make a difference somewhere in somebody's life.
This is very beautiful, Didi, very beautiful that you have shared today, where you say that even if I make a difference to one person's life, I'm still part of that
Part
change.
of the change.
And I guess today, when we want to see change at a macro level, we would have to start there.
Yeah.
And if I bring about that change, and then certainly a huge change would happen.
Definitely.
And I guess in today's episode, these are the things that we have come so close to making a change, and I believe our viewers have had such a vision for themselves too.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Friends, so much about change, so much to talk about, and so much that we have heard today. Even if I make a small one, a minute change, it could impact so many lives. Not only it could save mine, it could influence others too. We'll come back again with more on this topic. That's all for today. Take care. See you soon.
हमारे YouTube चैनल गॉडलीवुड स्टूडियो को सब्सक्राइब करें और साथ ही हर नए वीडियो के अपडेट के लिए बेल आइकन को क्लिक करें।